Welcome back to another bee taxonomy video. In this video, I'm going to discuss the parts of a bee head, and everything I'm going to point out is going to be really helpful to know as we begin working through a dichotomous key later. And believe it or not, there is a lot to go over, so we'll just jump right in. I've got a Lasioglassum semiceruleum under the scope right now. Basically, in layman's terms, it's a sweat bee, and these are very common in my area of the desert southwest, as well as more broadly. I'm first going to point out its compound eyes because they are so obvious. The bee's compound eyes really help to build a complex image of its surrounding environment. If we look above the compound eyes up to the vertex, which is the very top of the head here, we will notice that bees have 3 additional simple eyes, or ocelli. Now, there is nothing silly about a bee's ocelli because they help the bee to detect movement and shadows, which is very important. If we look laterally from the ocelli to the space between those and the compound eye, we have the ocellocular area. And then, if we look down from that to the space that is just medial from the compound eyes, we have the paraocular area. Both of these areas can be really helpful to look at for different patterns in the punctures scattered in these spaces. If we look in this space just below the ocelli, we have the frons, or what I like to think of as the bee's forehead. In my mind, frons equals forehead. Then if we move just down from the frons, we have the antennal sockets, where the antennae attach to the head. The antennae are, of course, important in detecting small vibrations and sounds, as well as smells, like the scents put off by flowers. The antennae are made up of all these segments, beginning with the scape here at the base. Then comes the pedicel, followed by the flagellomeres. The number of flagellomeres is helpful in determining whether you have a male or a female bee, because females have 10 flagellomeres, while males have 11. If you happen to count here, you will see that this is a female, Lasioglassum semiceruleum. Okay, so those are the antennae. Then, if we look just down from those, we get into the supraclypeal area, which is outlined on either side by these subantennal sutures. Most bees will have one subantennal suture per side, but in the family Andrenidae, they actually have 2 subantennal sutures per side, which I will point out in a later video. Then, if we look down from the supraclypeal area, we have the clypeus, which is helpful when you're looking for specific patterns in coloration, overall shape, or puncture patterns again. Then, now that it's in focus, we can look over to the side and we can see this small area between the compound eye and where the mandible hinges, and that's called the malar space. And as you can see in this bee, there isn't much of a malar space, but in certain other kinds of bees, especially like bumblebees, this area can be helpful in determining specific species. Now, we can see just below the clypeus the labrum, which is sometimes covered up by the mandibles when they're closed. The mandibles are sometimes helpful in determining how old your specimen is when you caught it. The more worn out the mandibles are, the older the bee likely was when you caught her. And it looks like in this specimen it was a bit older since the mandibles are so worn down. And then as we keep flipping the bee around, we will see the tongue. And I apologize, I know this is a bit dark. But as we can see in this specimen, the tongue is not extended out. Rather, it's folded in pretty tightly where they keep it safe. And to be honest, I'm not really familiar with the different tongue segments. And rather than tell you something that is incorrect, we'll just move on for now. So on either side of the tongue, we have these large area that I tend to think of as the bee's cheeks, but actually they're called gena. These can also be helpful to look at when you're comparing between different bees, the different patterns in the striations or hairs or things of that nature. Those are the major areas to know on a bee's head. I'll go over anything else as things come up in our future identifications. In the meantime, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, I hope you like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.